Hello, Genies. Before we get started, Rich and I want to let you in on some even more exciting updates for our Patreon subscribers.
As you know, Patreon is a site where listeners can pledge a small monthly amount, either $5 or $10, to support the cost of bringing you your favorite podcast. All patrons get early access to new CutOff Genes episodes before they're released to the public.
But the most exciting new perk is that all of our patrons will be able to listen to an exclusive bonus episode of the podcast every other week. Topics include personal stories that I'm not ready to share publicly, conversations with family and friends.
And sometimes we'll devote an entire episode to other subjects we love, like musical theater or classic television.
Rich and I enjoy bringing you the CutOff Genes podcast, and it would mean so much if you would consider supporting our labor of love.
Just go to patreon.com/cutoffgenespodcast.
Thank you so much, my Genies.
And now, on with the show. Is your family tree a mystery? Are you fascinated by genealogy? Well, hip, hip, hooray, let's talk DNA with Julie.
The truth is in your genes.
In CutOff Genes.
Welcome to CutOff Genes, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon-Jackson. I'm a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
And I am Richard Castle, the co-host and the producer of this podcast. But you know what, Julie?
What?
I just realized, because this is an extra special episode, that I was not always the co-host. I was just the producer at one time.
I know. It's so long ago.
Yeah, why don't you tell our listeners what we're going to present to them this week?
All right, so here's what's happening. We have decided to give ourselves an extended break in between seasons because we never have before. And I realized that actually the first 90 episodes of the podcast, we've been doing this for 4.5 years,
yes.
Everyone. The first 90 episodes of the podcast are difficult to access. You can't find it on any of the regular platforms.
And wow, what a time capsule, Julie.
I know.
I will say our sound quality has improved quite a bit since then.
Yes, we have. You know what? We have really grown in a lot of different ways.
Yes. You know what else was really funny was that there was no theme song yet.
I know.
Like, I didn't write that theme song until what? Like the second season, maybe? I don't even know.
Yeah. No, I think halfway through the first season, probably.
That's because it was 90 episodes, so I guess somewhere between.
It was 100 episodes.
Oh, that's right. Oh, my gosh.
We have a lot of people who have started listening since that first season and have not even heard. They haven't heard my story, my original story, any of that stuff. So this is a great way. And seeing how this goes, maybe we'll find a way to re-release a lot of them.
We're in reruns. We used to record together in the same room. And I almost forgot about that because it was all pre-COVID, and that feels like a lifetime ago. But at that time, you would come over to my house and we recorded. And at one point, because Renee was your co-host officially at the beginning, I think I was sharing a mic with you.
Yeah, you would have to lean into one of our mics to talk to us.
So different. But a shout out to Renee because she started this with you and with us, I guess, and it was nice to hear her again.
Yeah. Also, so in listening to this, if we play more of these, just know that a lot of the stuff that we say or that I say is outdated. I've also become a lot more familiar with some of the lingo and the language, and there are simply things that I said that are not quite true.
Well, they were to the best of your knowledge at the time. To the
best of my knowledge at the moment. I mean, I was new. But one of the things I mentioned, I said outright, well, at first I said Mormons own DNA, which was a mistake.
You mean owned ancestry?
But I said DNA because, yeah. But then I did say that they own Ancestry, and they actually do not own Ancestry. Ancestry is based in Utah, so I'm thinking a lot of Mormons work there. But the church itself does not own Ancestry. They do own Family Search, which is another research site. And they, of course, own the Family History Libraries, which is where we get everything.
Yes.
Oh, and I also the story time is a blog that I had for a long time, and it's each chapter of that blog. That blog is no longer available publicly, so because I'm writing my book, I'll say in the recording that you can go read it if you want to read ahead, but you actually can't. So, sorry.
I will say that I noticed that I am uncharacteristically quiet.
Well, because you were Mr. Producer.
I was just Mr. Producer. I was only wearing one hat.
Now you wear multiple, and now look at you. You're like the breakout star. People love you.
Oh, and I love them. No, you know what I will say, though? What was present from the beginning, and that is still there, is our friendship and the quality you have that is very real when you speak to people. And I noticed that as soon as I heard it, like you're very friendly and familiar, and I understand why listeners have welcomed you into their ears, because you have that same quality, and I was there from the beginning. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
The other thing I noticed, Julie, that was there from the very beginning was your catchphrase.
Yes.
Well, I hope that our listeners enjoy this little time travel and going back over 4 years ago.
Without further ado, everyone, please enjoy our original pilot episode, which was entitled, Who Are We and Why Are We Here? Hello, and welcome to CutOff Genes. It's our premiere episode. I'm Julie Dixon-Jackson. This is the podcast that teaches you about how to use consumer DNA testing to help you solve family mysteries, confirm or dispel family lore, and if you're adopted, like me, or have an unknown parent, how to use DNA testing to find who you're looking for. Now, if you've ever thought about taking a DNA test but wondered what the results could do for you or others, you're in the right place. I love solving mysteries, unearthing history, and podcasts, so I thought I'd combine all three and just see what happens. Now, full disclosure, I am not a geneticist or any sort of scientist. I do consider myself a genetic genealogist, and although that may sound super sciencey, it just means that I like to research genealogy using DNA to confirm. All of the information that I'll share is stuff that I've learned myself, either by reading books or being on the internet or being members of groups on Facebook, what have you, various and sundry resources we have out there, and I've simply implemented it into my own situation and to those of people that I've helped. Because of my layman's background, I think that I'll be able to take a lot of the mystery and confusion out of DNA testing. Most of the consumer sites offer tutorials and videos, but I want to go beyond what they want you to know. I'll do my best to explain things in the most basic of terms, talk you through it as best as I can, offer real-life examples, and I have so many real-life examples, it's mind-blowing. However, we'll all discover that there's lots that I don't know, so I'll be inviting friends that can help us all make a better sense of it. Now, through my experience, I've connected with many actual experts on the science and analysis of DNA, and I'm going to take advantage of those contacts and invite them on the podcast to enlighten us all just a little bit more. There's a lot of math and words that sound like altered versions of familiar words in genealogy or in DNA genealogy. My favorite personal one is centimorgan. We'll get to why that's named that at another time. Anyway, anyone who knows me knows that numbers aren't my friends. I like words, so as soon as numbers come into the mix, my brain kind of shuts down and does a backflip. Anyway, I would like to introduce you to my cohort, my sidekick, my podcast guru, and my friend, Renee Colvert.
It's me!
Some of you will recognize Renee from the Can I Pet Your Dog podcast on Max Fund, and I am beyond thrilled that she agreed to take on this endeavor with me.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. Now, Julie, here's the difference between you and me.
Yeah.
Is that you have done the research. Mm-hmm. You know exactly what you're talking about. I like to understand why people are the way they are, and then I guess. I don't do any actual looking into things.
Right. So the difference being I like science.
Right.
And I like to find out why people are the way they are, and science can prove that, and a lot of the times, especially in this particular case. So yeah, and I'm glad you don't know much about it because you're here to ask all the questions.
Yes. So here's to your sweet listeners.
Sure.
I am here to represent the voice of the people, the listeners. I am concerned that my questions are going to get a little too simple. So in that case, I'm here to be the village idiot.
Well, I think no questions are too simple, and there are no stupid questions.
Ooh. That's a good
There are
answer.
several stupid answers, and there are stupid people.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think it's good for you to ask some of the most basic questions because people are going to want to know what that is. And
Right.
I just assume that they know. So you can be the voice of reason.
Yeah.
You can be the everyman.
I love that. Because just when we're talking about like your in particular journey, you have been blowing my mind with what you can currently find these days. It's incredible.
I know. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And most people don't know that.
Well, they're about to.
I'm here to bust it wide open.
I love it.
All right. Okay. I'd also like to introduce you to our engineer, producer, songwriter extraordinaire. And this is why he's here. My friend, Richard Castle.
I'm pleased to be here and to help you out with this. I'm really excited about it. I'm very happy to find out more about everybody's history and genealogy, and it sounds very exciting. So,
Well, I'm very glad you're here, too, to help me with this. And I couldn't be happier. I've known you for so many years, and I love that we get to collaborate once again.
Everybody's being
right.
so polite.
I know.
When do we start throwing things around?
Very
when do we get
soon.
into it?
I'm sure very
All right.
soon. All right. I think we should just get into segment one.
Yes, let's
All
do
right.
it.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is explain some of the various DNA tests that are available to consumers and what my impressions are of their strengths and weaknesses. I haven't used all of them, but I've certainly used the most popular ones and the
Right.
most well-known ones. So sorry, guys, if I didn't mention your company. Hit me up and tell me
boy.
about you, and I'll talk about you at another time.
The
Okay.
letters are coming in.
Here we go. I may have opened a can of worms there.
Nah.
All right.
I think you're good.
All right. The first company we're going to start with is Ancestry DNA. We've all heard it. We've all seen the commercials where the man thought he was German and then had to trade in his lederhosen for
Right.
for a kilt.
Yep.
It was a big deal in his life, apparently.
Sure.
So
Those lederhosen are
Yes.
expensive.
they are. There's leather involved, right?
I think, I don't
Sure.
know.
Okay, so Ancestry DNA is my personal favorite, mainly because I've had the most success with it, and it has lots of tools that kind of help you find things out
Right.
that other places you couldn't.
And I think you told me that one's the one that's been around the longest, right?
It's been around the longest
Okay.
just as a DNA company. Actually, it started as a magazine in 1994.
No kidding.
And then later became, I guess, when the internet happened, it became a website, but it was strictly a genealogy website.
Right.
So, and I certainly wasn't around back. I mean, I was around, but
Yeah.
I
Not
wasn't
as
doing
interested.
it back then. But yeah, and then they didn't actually start doing DNA testing until 2012, which is really recently, actually.
And I wouldn't, do we know when the technology was developed? I mean, I know DNA testing has been around forever.
Okay,
and ever.
actually,
Yeah.
I do. The first autosomal DNA testing happened around 2007, meaning consumer, direct-to-consumer
Interesting.
autosomal. And that was
Yeah.
a different company that I'm going to get to. So let's talk more about Ancestry. It's the largest database of testers by far, which if somebody is looking for their family, people, to know who they are, that's the place to go.
Right.
It's grown exponentially over the last few years.
I can only imagine.
To
Yeah.
a point where it's great things are happening for a lot of us, including me. And I was born in Australia. So nothing really happened until a couple years ago when Australia finally started doing Ancestry DNA
Participating,
testing.
yeah.
And things happened.
So it's worldwide at this point.
It's
Well, I
world,
guess
not in
it's
every
the
world.
internet, so,
yes, yes. Well, there was a time when I was testing my family before they were doing it in Australia, and I would have to purchase a test, send it separately to Australia, have them do the test, then they would send it back to me, and then I had to send it back to Ancestry or 23andMe or
Lord.
whoever, because at that time they wouldn't accept kits that had been sent to somewhere in the U.S., but was coming from somewhere outside of the U.S.
Wow.
All right. So Ancestry also has a tree building algorithm that is really user-friendly. It takes a little practice, but
Okay.
It's because they have something called shaky leaf hints, which are like you've seen in the commercials. It's a little leaf that shakes to get your attention that, hey, maybe this tree is something like your tree, or maybe this record goes in your tree because we recognize this name.
Right.
My word of warning to you is absolutely look at your shaky leaf hints, but look at them critically.
Right.
Don't take it for granted just because
they said, hey,
just because this computer thinks that these are your people. It may not be the fact. So do your research, go and look at their tree or go look at the document. And if it makes sense, maybe further research even a little more to get some proof.
My comparison to this is dating sites. Sometimes they will be like, hey, look, you, according to our algorithm, connect with this person. Then you go to their page and you're like, oh, nope, I do
absolutely not.
No. So yeah, like that. Just do it.
It's kind of like
double
that.
check.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Right.
That's a good analogy, Renee.
Hey, thanks.
I enjoyed it.
That's what I understand, Julie.
Okay,
dating.
Not me. I'm glad one of us does. All right. I'm married, by the way. Okay, so let's go to the next company. 23andMe.
Yes.
Now, we've all heard, we've all seen the commercials for 23andMe. And I already said it was in 2007. It was the first autosomal testing company. Do you know what autosomal means?
No, I don't. But am I doing a good job pretending like
You're doing so well.
Thank you.
Okay, so the autosomal chromosomes are our numbered chromosomes. So DNA testing for ethnicity is something that 23andMe does. How's that sentence? As well as relative matching. They have health reports. Ancestry doesn't. And that's why a lot of people choose to do 23andMe other than Ancestry, because Ancestry doesn't, although there is another way to get health reports using the Ancestry data, and we'll get to that another time.
Interesting. And you were telling me, I thought this was interesting. 23andMe does a lot of, hey, you sure? Hey, you real sure you want to know what your health results are?
Yes, they do.
I was very fascinated by that.
Yeah.
So how many doors do they have
So
that you have
many,
to open?
like almost every time you open it. And I think the reason for that is a few years ago, the FDA came in and shut them down.
No kidding.
For a little bit.
Oh, boy.
I don't really know exactly why, but obviously had to do with telling people medical things that maybe they weren't ready to hear or what have you. So they had to come up with a new deal with the FDA. And so for a couple of years, they didn't have any health testing. And then they got it again. And actually what's weird is that's the time when I stopped using 23andMe, because their interface changed and all the stuff that was familiar to me that I was using for my genealogy related stuff got just too confusing.
That makes sense. Yeah. You like what you like.
Sure. So they do have the health reports. They also have something called a chromosome browser.
Okay.
It's not an internet. Well, it is an internet thing, but it's not like your browser on the internet.
Okay.
You're literally browsing chromosomes, and we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
They do have an excellent community and message boards, and for the longest time before I went back to Ancestry, that was the place that I talked to most people about what to do with this stuff.
I love that. So it's got a really active community over there.
Very active community and a lot of really helpful people. I learned a lot of stuff from them.
Great.
They do have a smaller DNA database and a lower response rate to messages from other users than Ancestry. This is an issue for a lot of genealogists because we see that we match someone, but they don't have a tree. We want to know why.
Right, yeah.
A lot of times they just don't respond.
Yeah.
Or you have to actually ask them specifically, will you share your DNA data with me so that you can put it into the chromosome browser and we can see how we match.
Right.
And if you've been doing this long enough, it would make sense as to why you want to do that.
Have they not been to a potluck? You bring your treat. You bring it. You share
you know what?
It. That's
Some
how
people
it works.
take their toys and go home after they're done.
I don't care for that.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either, but hey, to each his own.
Okay, that's fair.
All right. So if you're interested in only ethnicity and health, then, 23andMe is probably for you.
Yeah.
All right. The next company I'm going to talk about is Family Tree DNA, also known as FTDNA.
Right. No, I tried to order flowers from them and they could not help. Is there a company that's FTD? Okay.
FTD. Right. That's what it is. Good job, Renee.
Hey, thanks.
So FTDNA offers ethnicity analysis, relative matching, and a chromosome browser. Yay! We love chromosome browsers. Lots of Europeans seem to test at FTDNA because most of my Norwegian matches, and I am a very small portion Norwegian,
right?
And they seem to show up on FTDNA more than anywhere else.
Okay.
Yep. In fact, they offer autosomal testing, which we've already talked about, and that's what most of the companies just offer. However, they offer mitochondrial, which focuses on the female chromosome, and the Y chromosome, which is, as we said, something that is passed on from male to male to male. So, regarding my Norwegian ethnicity or Norwegian genealogy, my cousin Sam is a direct descendant from my third great grandfather, who was purported to be Norwegian. In all of his papers and all the birth certificates of his kids and his wedding certificate all said that he was from Christiania, Norway, which is now Oslo. And however, his name was Alexander Price. Not a Norwegian name.
It is not?
No, really more British. No, actually, it's Welsh.
So what did they...
I knew that. So that didn't make sense. I've done a little bit of research in Norway, and they're like,
we don't know this guy.
This is not a name we use. That was offensive probably to most Norwegians. So I got my cousin Sam to take a Y-DNA test at FTDNA because, like I said, the Y-DNA, he's a direct male descendant, meaning his father and his father before him and his father before him were all descendants, directly male descendants from Alexander Price.
Very cool.
And sure enough, all of his matches, his Y chromosome matches, are Norwegian people.
Look at that.
Or Norwegian, they have Norwegian history. Anyway, FTDNA also offers tree building. It's not that user-friendly for me. Just saying, mainly because Ancestry is just so easy, and it's my ancestry tree is huge, and I can't imagine building it again from scratch somewhere else.
Completely fair, and I think it's also just like you pick your poison here, or your preference,
Well,
whichever
also,
works best for you.
So FTDNA doesn't offer the research tools or the records. So that's another problem for me. However, you can upload a GEDCOM. And I'll tell you later what a GEDCOM is.
Thank God. Okay.
You're on the edge of your seat. All right. So let's go to MyHeritage. Okay. So MyHeritage is another company that's recently thrown its hat into the DNA game. You can upload raw DNA for free, I think, or a nominal fee. I'm actually...
Wait, how do you upload it? You just spit on the screen? How does this work?
Yes. The end. Okay, so you download your raw DNA data from one of the other sites that you've tested at.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then it's in your computer, and then you can upload that file to another site.
That makes sense. Okay, so long as you've done it with one of the other companies, then you can transfer it over.
It's a very cool thing. Okay, it's a cool thing to have, and a lot of people don't know about it. Anyway, I uploaded my raw DNA to them. I think they sell tests too. I guess I'll have to double check that, but the fact that I already had
I love that business model. I'm just like, the other people
take
do
another
the test.
Yes.
That's great.
Oh, well, absolutely. And we're going to get to that, a company that does that. Actually, they don't give tests, but they just take the data.
Look at that.
Yeah, I don't know that much, honestly, about MyHeritage. I've tried it a little bit. None of my matches are close enough or have trees for me to really be into it.
Great. Okay.
To tell you the truth.
Right.
But I'm sure it has great things to offer. And hopefully in the future, people will reach out and maybe they'll come talk to us and tell us stuff we didn't know. And
here's what we got.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
All right. Last but certainly not least is GEDmatch. Capital GED match. Now, that may sound familiar to some of you, and probably because it's been in the zeitgeist lately because of the capture of the alleged Golden State Killer.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
They use that one.
They use GEDmatch.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Are there details yet of how they got it?
Yep.
Can you tell me?
I can, and I'll get into it a little later.
Okay, fair.
But first, I'm going to tell you about GEDmatch.
All right.
So GEDmatch is a free volunteer-run website for people who have already tested at one of the other companies and downloaded raw data and uploaded to GEDmatch, as we spoke about very recently. It is for genealogical purposes, so a lot of serious genealogists upload there. I recommend all serious family researchers to upload there because of the vast database. There are people from all over the world that use it. It's getting bigger every day. It offers, I'm going to give you a list of things it offers. Phasing, which is separating maternal from paternal matches. Hopefully you have a sample from one of your parents.
Right.
But if you don't, but you have a sibling, you can use, or even a cousin, a close cousin on one of the sides, you can use that as a stand-in for your maternal or paternal chromosome. So it helps a little. I mean, it's better to have your actual parent. Anyway, they have Ye Olde chromosome browser. They have admixture reporting, which has to do with heritage, one-to-many and one-to-one matching. And they have something called Are My Parents Related?
What?
Yeah, that's a fun thing.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so you punch in both your parents' DNA. No, actually, no, you can match.
What a fun Christmas
you can punch
activity.
it. I know. I've actually used it a couple times because I was very confused for a while, and I thought maybe that's the answer. So you actually punch in your own DNA to this, whatever this utility is, and it'll tell you whether or not your parents are related.
What do you do with that information if they are?
Well, it could answer a lot of questions for some of us.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you don't want to know, don't do it.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But I think it's important. And a lot of people are related distantly. Sure. Like if you're beyond a fifth cousin, there's nothing that weird about that because most people don't know their fifth cousins if they're not genealogists.
We're all related eventually.
We are. There's one world tree.
Yes.
We'll get into that later.
I love that. So wait, are you and your husband related?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Well, you better test.
Well, my kids would have to test.
Okay. That makes sense.
Well, no, my husband and I aren't related because he's tested and we don't have any of the same
Anything
matches.
in there.
I don't think.
Okay.
Maybe I should double check that.
Yeah. Let's save that for a later episode.
I'm so afraid now.
All of a sudden turn into a Murray Pulpit show.
All right. And they also have something called Tier 1 utilities, and in which case you give a small donation or a monthly donation to GEDmatch, and you get some extra stuff that you can do.
I love that. Okay.
Which is cool. And it's well worth it because you're helping out the company, which is free for most people.
Yeah.
So some of the extra utilities are matching segment search, which is important for triangulation. Okay. We'll talk about that later. And my personal favorite is what color are my eyes?
Ooh.
Yep.
Oh, that is fun.
And you know what? They did it. I did it, and they're exactly right.
They get it right?
Exactly right.
What color are your eyes?
They are green with like a gray-blue rim around the edges and brown flecks in the middle, which is super crazy
to tell
specific.
You to that detail?
No, they showed a picture.
No way.
Yeah, there's a picture of it. It's on. I put it on the page on the CutOff Genes Facebook page.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that is impressive.
Yeah, I go back to it every now and then and say, how did they do that? That's amazing.
That is impressive.
All right, so those are all the companies we're going to talk about today. We'll get to other ones at other times, especially when people reach out to us and say, hey, what about this one? And sure, we can take direction. Yeah. We'll get into that.
We'll follow your lead.
All right, in the meantime, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back.
You are listening to CutOff Genes. And now back to Julie Dixon-Jackson and Renee Colvert.
Hey, Renee.
Hey, Julie.
Guess what?
What?
It's National DNA Day.
You're kidding.
Isn't that crazy?
That's nuts.
I know.
You planned it accidentally.
I just discovered it.
I mean, if that's an omen for a smash hit podcast.
I mean, come on.
I don't know what to tell you.
I know. So in honor of National DNA Day, there's lots of sales going on with all the companies, which is a good time. Actually, Ancestry has them for $59 right now, which is unheard of.
That's a steal.
Yes.
What does it normally go for?
Around 100.
Oh, my
Come
goodness.
on, it's almost half. I know.
Why not?
I know.
Use one for a bookcase.
So in honor of National DNA Day, I am going to have you take an Ancestry DNA test.
You have it right now. You've got the box
that I
in
happen
front
to
of me.
have right here, and I have this because it was just laying around my house. Because this is funny. One of my husband's employees gave him this for Christmas.
He didn't. I don't think he knew too much about your husband's wife.
By the way, exactly. That's a fabulous gift, giving DNA tests for people.
Agreed.
I say do it all the time. But yeah, my husband's partner laughed and said, clearly you don't know this family.
Yeah, just so we're clear. That's fine.
Yeah.
It worked in our favor.
Exactly. So so I had this, and you're going to take it, and I'm going to talk you through it. And why don't you open that while I talk about it. So the first thing you do is the kit comes with an activation code, and you go to Ancestry DNA, and you find where it says activate a kit, and you go to that place, and it says punch in the code, and then you punch in the code, and it's activated, and you also open an account. You can do it for free. You can open a free account. Yeah.
Okay, so I opened up this plastic thing.
Yes, you open up that plastic thing. Now, I will say, where does it say here? Do not eat, drink, smoke, or chew gum for 30 minutes before giving your saliva sample. Have you done that, Renee?
Well, now, Julie, here's what was fun. I thought we were recording an hour earlier than we were recording today. Sure. So then I had a little extra time on my hands.
Yeah.
Took myself to Trader Joe's.
Oh, dear God.
Got some grocery shopping done. Yeah. As you know, I like one of my groceries to ride shotgun with me on the way home. So as that text came in, just a mouthful of crackers. Don't
really
eat or drink anything. And then I did a really nice enactment from. Have you seen Big, where he's at the fancy party
and he goes
and like a napkin scraping
off his tongue?
Yeah.
That's
but
good.
I think the timing works out that it's
That's
been
hilarious.
About an hour.
Well, actually, did I say? I think I told you an hour. Just to be clear,
Look
it's
at that.
actually 30 minutes.
Hey, I'm doing it. I nailed
because I don't trust anybody. Okay, you fill the tube with saliva to the black wavy line. Okay. All right, including bubbles, apparently. Fill the tube until your saliva, not including bubbles, is at or just above the wavy line. It's easy. That's less than a quarter teaspoon. Do not overfill. Is it? Maybe it's changed since the last time I did it.
I will say that without having water in a bit, I'm like, this is going to take us 14 hours.
It takes a good 10 minutes usually. We may have to cut, but
because as of right now, it looks like a little bit of a funnel.
You're basically going to put this on your mouth and do that.
Right. Okay.
But also, and this is something they don't tell you, but you should always do. A lot of people, they don't get enough DNA from the sample, and that's because they didn't chew on the inside of their cheeks enough. So chew on the inside of your cheeks.
All right. I feel like this is going to be real rough for your listeners.
That's getting basically, they're using the cheek, what do you call them?
Cheek cells?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
You're the scientist. Mm-hmm. They're using your cheek cells. That's where they get the DNA. And it's in your saliva, but the more you chew your cheeks, the more cells will come up in your spit.
Do you know much about the receiving end of this? That has to be the world's worst job. To be in acceptance of a DNA test. Just I open this up every day.
Well, let's put it into perspective. Imagine if you were the person that worked at the lab for the colon tests.
Oh, no, you're right.
Yep.
You're right.
So let's just cut that off right there.
God's work. All right.
God's work.
What do you say? We put Rich on mic, unless your listeners like, I really want to hear her chew on her cheeks.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question.
What's
Julie.
the question, Rich?
So I did a DNA test on my dog.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and he did not need to spit into a test tube. I mean, I had to scrape his inside of his cheek.
That's a good question.
With like a little toothbrushy type of thing, or like a pipe. It was like a pipe cleaner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, it didn't have to do much.
Yes, that's a really good question. Ancestry uses the saliva, as does 23andMe. FTDNA uses the swab. And you get, in their package, you get like these long, it looks like Q-tips, basically. And you just scrape the inside of your cheeks on both ends of it or something.
And why the cheek? I mean, why not just say, just clip a toenail or something? Or I don't know, some skin cells. Can you scrape something off of your hand or your arm?
You probably could, but not for this kind of testing.
Okay.
Apparently.
Right.
I mean, you can't, like a lot of people ask, can I send in hair with the roots and stuff like that? Right. And that is stuff that all can be done, but this lab is specifically designed to use, or these labs are specifically designed to use to be the most user friendly, and I guess the easiest thing is spit.
Hair with the roots sounds like it would be a little more painful than spitting into a test tube. But then again, as I watch Renee spit into the test tube, maybe it wouldn't be so bad.
How are you doing there, Nay?
Oh boy, I am not excelling at this project.
Perhaps we could give her some chewing tobacco and might help her.
No, that would mean she'd be eating something.
Oh, yes.
That's why I wanted a lemon, because lemons make your mouth water, and she stuck it near her nose. But think about, what's your favorite food? Think about that. Okay, don't overfill, Renee. I'm sure we're...
What did it say about bubbles again? 'Cause bubbles
including bubbles.
Oh, well then I did it.
Not including bubbles. Sorry.
Are we going to swear on this podcast? We are now.
Absolutely. Okay. So once
Is this how they used to tell if the rabbit died, like back in the days in the pregnancy tests?
Possibly.
No rabbits were harmed in the formation, in the creation of this podcast.
This DNA test. Okay. So after you've done that, do you think you've done it?
I mean, it looks...
Let me
I
look.
think you
I'm
need
gonna
to go
look
a
at
little
your spit.
more. I think we need a little more
because
spittle.
it said including bubbles, so I want the bubbles to stop right above that black wavy line.
All right.
I like torturing you.
The things we do for science.
Yep.
Less talking, Renee, and more spitting.
More spitting. I'm on it. All right. So when she's done with that, she's going to replace the funnel with the cap. And there's some fluid in there. I'll read it. Remove the funnel from the tube. Screw on the enclosed cap tightly to release the solution that will stabilize the DNA in your saliva. Ooh, okay. So it's stabilizing it.
There's some kind of a chemical process going on, is what you're telling me.
What would I do without you people? All right, then okay, I already did that. And then you're going to shake the tube for at least 5 seconds. That seems new to me. This will ensure your sample mixes thoroughly with the stabilization solution. Sure. So our lab can best process your sample. Immediately, I visualized a Labrador Retriever processing a sample because that's where I go, as does Renee probably.
She pet my dog before we came in here. She's not going to come out as part golden retriever or something, is she? Okay.
She clearly is. I think she's more like a chocolate lab.
Okay. She is putting the liquid on top of the sample.
I think you're supposed to hear a click.
It's like that Friends episode. You've got to hear the click.
Wow, we're following directions and we still can't do it right. Okay, there you go. Okay. Oh, then it cracked, and now you get it. Is it working?
Yeah, I think so.
At least 5 seconds.
It's alive. It's alive.
Wait, I think all that blue solution is supposed to be down in the stuff. Wait. All right. So then we're going to put, then they give us this handy dandy little specimen thing that we'll put that in. And then they have a stamped self-addressed box that you, that's prepaid, and you put that in that and you stick it in the mailbox and Bob's your uncle. Okay. All right, so that thus ends Renee Takes a DNA Test. We'll be back.
Thank you for listening to CutOff Genes, the new podcast starring Julie Dixon-Jackson with Renee Colvert.
And we're back.
Whoa, Julie, boy, that coming up with that much spit is a task. I feel I'm going to take a nap after that.
Do you feel like you need some water now?
You do. I got some. Right, yeah, that's what I need.
Yes,
exactly.
You didn't smoke before, did you? Right. Okay, well, guess what time it is?
What time is it?
It is time for the genealogy DNA-related word of the week.
Do I have to spell this at any point?
Yes.
No, Julie, no.
Actually, that's a fun idea. We're going to have a spelling bee.
They're going to be like, oh, voice of the people, definitely Village. I'm a terrible speller.
I love spelling.
Okay.
Just another thing that I excel at.
Let's hear this word.
Okay, here we go. The word is GEDCOM.
Ooh.
Yeah. It is an acronym standing for Genealogical Data Communication, and is an open de facto specification for exchanging genealogical data between different genealogical software. GEDCOM was developed by the LDS Church as an aid in genealogical research. Now, we should just get this out of the way now, and most people know this. The LDS Church, or the Mormons, own DNA. I mean, no, they don't own DNA.
Leave it at that. They do. They know. You're on.
Scratch that. Scratch. What? Abort. No, actually, they own genealogy.
Do they?
They do.
So wait, do they also, are they affiliated with Ancestry? A lot of my Mormon
they
friends.
own Ancestry.
Okay, that's how they got the job.
Yes.
Okay, I got it. All right.
Precisely. Yeah. They, many years ago, and I don't know why exactly, perhaps I should research that, the LDS folks started collecting records from around the world and storing them on microfilm in their huge family search library in Salt Lake City.
Look at that.
And people take trips just to Salt Lake just so that they can spend a few days at that library. All right, so basically a GEDCOM file is a plain text file containing genealogical information. Guys, it's a family tree. Okay. It's basically, now here's the thing. I've been doing this for a while, and the term GEDCOM has come up a few times.
Right.
And people have asked me, do you have a GEDCOM? You can put a GEDCOM in there. And I thought a GEDCOM was something that you had to make all on your own from scratch.
Yeah, I would assume so too.
And I wouldn't know how to do that. And so I ignored all talk of GEDCOM.
Right. Yeah. And
until, actually, okay. So I wanted to share this because of this. I had an aha moment just this past week. So I said I've heard of people talking about it. And it sounded like some sort of external family tree that you had to build from scratch, which scared me. As I said, when things scare me, I pretend they don't exist.
Yes.
Right? In researching this episode, when I was referring to other genealogy sites not having effective family tree building capabilities, I wanted to make sure I was giving them enough credit.
Right.
Okay. So what I noticed was that they all had the option for the user to upload a GEDCOM.
Okay.
There was that word again. So I went back to my comfortable and familiar ancestry tree and clicked the link in the drop-down menu to tree settings. Under tree info, I discovered an option that I've never noticed before. Under manage your tree, it says export your family tree data as a GEDCOM file to your computer.
Look at this.
It was there all the time.
The whole time. You just had to believe.
So
What a moral.
stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know how I'd missed that little tidbit. So I clicked on the export tree button, and in no time at all, I had a GEDCOM file in my computer. I then went to FTDNA and GEDmatch. And uploaded said GEDCOM file to both of those sites, and voila.
Look at this.
Yes.
So it puts a little tree in your purse.
It puts a
and then
little
you can
tree
pass it
in
out.
your purse.
I love it. Okay.
I love carrying trees in my purse. Yeah. 23andMe also has an option to upload a tree, and you can also use your Ancestry URL as an option
Very
to
cool.
punch it into there.
Okay.
However,
Yes.
I tried to do that.
What
and
happened?
It's really hard to find.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I had to go to a blog post that showed me how to find it using pictures and arrows. Disclaimer, I've not spent much time at all on 23andMe since they changed their interface. It's obviously a learning curve.
Okay.
And since I've had so much success on Ancestry, I just don't feel like taking the time to figure it out. I will, I promise, since I'm doing this podcast, but my brain needs to be prepared for new information.
Yeah. Well, and it also seems like, I mean, not this, but sort of this, everybody's going to have their own preference, kind of like a cell phone. Where
Right.
you're like, I don't know, this one works for
Absolutely,
me.
which is
I know
why
how
I
to work
haven't
this
paid
one.
attention to it before.
Right.
I knew I had my own ways of doing it, but since I'm trying to educate people on what's available to them, I figured I should know
Smart.
things.
Yes.
You know.
Good.
Okay, so with
Julie, I'm sorry. I have a question for you.
Yes,
What is
Rich.
the significance of 23andMe? In other words, why is that the name of that? What does the 23 mean? Because I understand
Richard.
genealogy.com. But
Yes, that's an excellent question.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's an excellent question, and I'm surprised you graduated from college, Rich. Each human has 23 chromosomes.
Got it.
And men also have a Y chromosome. We have not
Yeah, no,
been
I've
given
heard all
the
about
Y.
that.
Yeah, we've
Thank
been
you,
there,
Rich.
And I'm a little bit bitter about the whole thing. So yeah, they're playing on the fact that we have 23 chromosomes.
I was only trying to show off my extra chromosome.
know.
I'm sorry.
Why-splaining once again. All right. Where were we, Renee?
We were going over
I'm
the
glad you
final
asked that, Rich.
definition of
Yes.
this acronym.
Yes. So with FTDNA, it was fairly easy to upload my GEDCOM. However, the family view option appears to only go back 4 generations, while the pedigree view goes back as far as you have in your GEDCOM.
Okay.
The difference being the pedigree view only shows direct line ancestors, meaning parents to grandparents to great-grandparents. It doesn't have like their siblings and all that, whereas the family view does, and it's a much more expansive tree.
Yeah.
So from what I can tell, and I may be wrong, but I think the family view only goes back 4 generations, and I see that as a problem because I want to go back as many generations.
Go further.
But I love FTDNA. All right. So, yeah, I wanted to share this because I wanted to demonstrate that although I claim to know a lot about genetic genealogy, including how to say it, that I'm not an expert on how to use all the various tools. And there are things that we can all learn,
Of
Renee.
course. Yeah, we're just here having fun.
Yeah, it's just kind of a very public way of forcing myself to learn things.
I like that.
You know.
Good. And
Yeah.
we're learning along with you.
Right. Okay, let me quiz you. What's a GEDCOM?
GEDCOM is your tree that you can put into other sites that'll have all your information on it.
And how did you get it in the first place?
I went to 23andMe and I clicked on the GEDCOM button.
Nope. You went to Ancestry.
I went to Ancestry.
Well,
and I
you
clicked
may
on the
have.
GEDCOM button.
Actually, I went to Ancestry, and they said, "Hey, download this GEDCOM."
Great.
Right. Okay. Good. You did it.
Hey,
Let's take a break.
someone's listening.
We'll be back.
You are listening to CutOff Genes. And now, back to Julie Dixon Jackson.
And we're back.
And we're back.
Yes.
I'm very excited about this next segment.
Are you ready for it?
Now listen, a tiny bit. I am forcing you to do this because this is called Julie's story.
Right.
And it is.
And you're too lazy to read it.
Yeah. Well, that. But it is nuts. Your
It's nuts. I
listeners
have a
are
nuts
in
story
for
gang.
such a fun ride.
Okay. So, I'm going to do a summary of a blog post, the first blog post that I ever wrote regarding this, that I started writing in 2014. It was a time when big things were happening, and I realized that I needed to start documenting my experience because it was crazy. I'd also gotten so long, it had also gotten so long and drawn out that instead of repeating the same saga to anyone who asked, I could just direct them to the blog and they could get the whole story. Anyway, it's called Are You My Father? How I Spent My Life Searching for Truth. And the URL is myelusivehistory.blogspot.com. Now, you can go there or you can not go there. I'm only going to summarize the first chapter here, and there's like 37 chapters in it. So if you want to go there and read all 37 chapters, spoiler alert, you'll already know what happens, but that's up to you. So I'm giving you the option. Okay, so are you ready?
I am ready.
I'm going to start this by saying I've always known that I needed to know where I came from.
Right.
As a child, it was more about who is my mother. A father and extended family weren't at the forefront of my thoughts simply because the concept of growing in someone's belly for 9 months and never seeing them again was in and of itself abstract.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, that in and of itself. And so you can't get beyond the mother, you know.
Right.
So I was in a complete family, mom, dad, sibling, grandparents, cousins. And although all of my needs were being met and I was treated as a biological child for all intents and purposes, there was always this feeling of being incomplete.
Of course. Yeah.
And many adoptees feel this way, I dare say, the majority. But there are also other adoptees out there who have never had those feelings or the desire to search out their origins. Mm-hmm. I validate them and appreciate that we all have different paths. Nor do I judge anyone who is not interested in searching, and I'd like to think that most of them would refrain from judging me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everybody do your own thing.
Okay, I think the feeling of incompleteness is often emphasized for those of us who are or were very different from the people that we grew up with.
Of course.
Which was in my case. It was often confusing that I seemed to have such different sensibilities from the other members of my family. I often referred to it as feeling like we came from different planets.
Yep.
Now, I am in no way calling my parents aliens. I'm merely pointing out that we seemed to be other than each other. It was sometimes like being in a play and everyone else knew their lines, but I had to improvise.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can explain it.
It's a good way to explain it.
Anyway, my parents were loving, responsible people. In fact, they were remarkable and did their very best to nurture and, yes, understand who they had brought into their lives. Because I wasn't easy, I'm sure.
Artists are tough when they're young.
Yeah. Sometimes I talk about the fact that I didn't have a happy childhood, which is true, but it's not the fault of my parents and has nothing to do with the way I was raised. The fact is, I suffered from depression and anxiety for as long as I can remember. It manifested itself when I was a child as a constant feeling of impending doom. When I tried to explain it to my parents, all I could come up with was that I was worried about something, but I couldn't explain what.
Right.
They, of course, told me not to worry, as you do. It was the 70s.
Yeah, quick fix. Just don't do that.
Sure. Right. Don't worry. You have nothing to worry about. Depression and anxiety weren't part of the zeitgeist, particularly in children back then. Not to mention the fact that seeking psychiatric help or medication definitely meant that you must be crazy.
Yeah.
You know.
Of course.
Yeah. Yep. So let me reiterate. I loved my parents. I'm ever grateful for the life they gave me, and I miss them very much. They fully supported me in my desire to learn about my origins. I did my best to be sensitive to how they may be feeling. In fact, the most emotional I've felt during this entire process was related to their feelings. Right. The last thing I ever wanted was for them to think that I'd ever want to replace them. My dad was a man of science and an intellectual, and when DNA became a part of the equation, he was all in.
Of course.
He loved that there was now a scientific method to solve my mystery. Here's the story. I was born in Australia and lived there until I was 15 when my family moved to the United States. In 1986, I returned to visit friends and family for the first time in 6 years. And on a lark, my friend Linda, who is my oldest friend since we were 3 years old, we went to visit a psychic. It was her idea. Linda had been referred to her, and we thought it might be fun, and it only cost like $25.
No, absolutely. Then
why wouldn't you?
Yes,
please. So she must have been good, right? I wrote
You're
that.
paying that kind of money. Yeah, this girl's got it figured out.
Yeah. I don't remember much of what she told me. There were a lot of referrals to like, you're at a crossroads in your life and you're on a journey. And you're trying to make a choice. You know, standard psychic speak.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, who isn't at a crossroads? I'm like, that's a tad general for me. I don't know.
Sometimes feel understood and sometimes don't feel understood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like
How
all
do you know
people.
this? Yeah. Yeah. So at one point, she asked me how long my parents had been divorced. When I told her that they were still together, she said, well, how come I keep getting two sets of parents? Wait, I'll do it different. How come I keep getting two sets of parents?
Oh, that's good.
How's that?
Oh, that's spot on.
This was in Australia, and that was a terrible accent. Please don't judge me.
I bought it. I liked it.
All right. Good one, psychic. Lady, after I told her it's probably because I was adopted, she then proceeded to try to convince me that my mother was a famous actress.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it at all.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing that she did tell me was about the Adoption Act of 1984, which was a new law that allowed adoptees to access their original records in Australia. This was news to me, and I was definitely inspired to look into it. So long story short, I went through the steps to get things started and was eventually put in touch with a place called the Copeland Street Family Center. Now, this place had originally been called the Methodist Babies Home and happened to be the exact building that I spent the first 2 months of my life.
Crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And where my parents went to adopt me. It took somewhere between 1 or 2 years for them to get to my case, but when they finally did, I was informed that they couldn't just hand me the papers. I needed to go through a licensed therapist.
Right.
So I was working on a cruise ship as a performer, and we would dock in San Francisco. So my records were sent to a counselor there. And on one port day towards the end of 1988, I made my way to her office where she handed me a semi-thick manila envelope, but she wouldn't allow me to open it until she had properly screened me, whatever that meant. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Interesting.
Guess what?
What?
That's the end of that.
No.
Yep.
Wait, more.
Nope.
How did you get properly screened?
I'll tell you.
I want to know.
I'll tell you next
In
time.
next episode?
Yes.
Okay.
Stay tuned, folks. So that's basically a summary of the first chapter.
That's amazing.
I like to leave cliffhangers at the end of each one.
I'm hanging off a cliff.
Yep. So that's it. Again, if you want to go read the whole thing, myelusivehistory.blogspot.com. Renee, do you want to tell everybody how they can get in contact with you?
Oh, sure. I would love to. I'm on Twitter at Renee Colvert, on Instagram at Renee S. Colvert, because I did it wrong the first time.
Oh, sure.
And if you were a dog person, I have a podcast called Can I Pet Your Dog? Oh, wait, I have one more question. How long does it take for this DNA test to come back?
Oh, good question. So from the time they receive it, they say it takes 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
It depends on how backed up they are.
Right.
Now, it used to be pretty on time.
Yeah.
However, from the time they started doing this until now, like I want to say 3 years ago, they had... I wish I had the numbers right now. But
sure, but they've grown exponentially.
Exponentially.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy how many people are
cool for
which
the
is
tree for
fantastic.
Data. Yeah,
yes,
it just takes a while to get your own information back.
People like me. Cool. Okay, and Rich, would you like to tell people about yourself?
Sure. I mean, you can follow me on Twitter. I don't know anything about DNA, but I'm a songwriter for musical theater.
And a good one.
Thank you very much. At Castle Songs. That's Castle, Castle. And I believe you can also follow me on SoundCloud. And also I have a Facebook page at Castle Songs as well.
Where can people find you, Julie?
People can find me at... as I said at the beginning, on the Twitter, at Jules Jackson with 2 O's, all one word. I've also started a Twitter page for us. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know.
Yes, it's called CutOff Genes 1. I also have started a CutOff Genes Facebook page.
Yes.
That you can probably find and join. Feel free to comment and ask questions and concerns. We just ask that you don't be an asshole about it.
It's a fair request.
Yep. Also, we have a website.
Yes.
I'm saying that like with a question mark because I've bought the domain, but we've actually done nothing with the
design.
website. But
Okay.
I promise we will. But it's going to be called cutoffgenes.com. Yay, I got
That'll
it.
be fine. There we
Yes.
go. And you can find all the information that we talked about there, I would bet.
And
Okay.
fun things. And fun things as well. So, hey, that's the end of our pilot. What do you think?
I think it's fantastic. Julie, do you have a catchphrase to close?
Well, I thought that we would talk about what genealogy does for people as opposed to what people tell them. And what I have discovered, and most people have discovered, is that the truth is in your genes.
Oh man, that's a good catchphrase.
There's lots of other things in my genes too. But
Like what?
lint, I guess. All right.
And that's the truth.
All right. We hope to come back at you soon. And thanks for listening. Take care.